the Bears have to figure out what they want to be going into this end of this season. And two, everybody talks about Chicago about how, man, they can't ever get the quarterback right. They can't ever get, a good quarterback. To go hand in hand with that, in our lifetime, we don't get head coaches right either. So when you're looking at this, like, what is it? Is it the chicken or is it the egg? To me, a good coach is always going to get the best out of what he has on the roster.
100%.
The Bears need to start there. Start at identifying who can run this franchise in the future, a guy who's going to speak up in meetings, who's going to help your younger GM, go across, this whole journey of him learning the ins and outs. And we've seen that with Poles.
Yeah.
But also, too, like bringing in a guy who is a quarterback who's willing to learn, willing to run a system that's tailored towards him. And the problem with this Bears team always, and this is just from, the top of the rung all the way down, is no one is ever on the same page. Mm-hmm. And now the problem is that you have a head coach in there and a GM who did not draft Justin Fields.
Right.
And now have the out of saying, well, that's not my guy. And if you give me my chance to draft my guy, we'll take this thing off. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. All of them need to be on the same page. That way they're all accountable. And by the end of it, it's not that Spider-Man meme where everybody's pointing at each other. And this is this is the same song and dance the Bears have played pretty much my whole entire lifetime. Maybe a short period of time when Lovey was here, when it was like, hey, we know what we are. We know our quarterback's limited, but we're going to put ourselves in the best chance to win football games each and every Sunday by running the football and playing good defense. But you know what? The NFL's moved a little bit, and that quarterback needs to be a little better. You can still do that defense thing, but that NFL quarterback needs to be within that 10 to 12 range now, and that's kind of what you see with the Lions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's incredibly well said. And Juice, while we're on the topic, just a really quick answer here before we start to dive into some other narratives here. Would you want to see Belichick in Chicago?
How much power does he have? See, this is the problem.
Probably a lot.
Well, this is the problem anytime that you answer, would you want this guy?
Yeah.
The problem becomes, how much power does Kevin Warren have? How much power does the new guy coming in have?
Sure.
I'm on that Harbaugh train, man. If they're going to let a guy go, to me, it seems like he'll speak up enough and work well enough with Ryan Poles to where, you got Kevin Warren with that Big Ten background too, that I'm sure that that would be the position where I look at the front office and I go, okay, you can, if you're willing to keep Poles around, that's the move. Because then you have the checks and balances that are on the same page, and Ryan Poles could then be kind of not mentored per se. He's the GM, but Harbaugh's been around the block a time or two and had that control. That them working together, I feel way more confident than a rookie GM, which is probably what's going on with Ryan Poles, or not with Matt Eberflus, just saying, hey, this is what you got, make it work.
Yeah. Yep, agreed. I think the Harbaugh idea is also interesting. I love the notion of the Big Ten connection. I think that goes understated with Kevin Warren and obviously the familiarity there with Harbaugh being at Michigan all these years. But you also have a guy who's incredibly well connected around the NFL that could potentially come in and take over. And if that be the case, then you can get the offensive coordinator you want to run a certain kind of system that could be tailored to, maybe the OC does come in and say, no, we love Justin Fields. We can maximize him. Or maybe they say, no, let's go get X kid and see what we can do here. So lots of opportunities there. But speaking of the quarterback position, Juice, because it is the most important in football, the man, quarterback one, JF1, whatever you want to call him, is going to return this week against the Detroit Lions in Week 11. So Tyson Bagent, with his 2-2 record as a starter, heads to the bench for the time being. And Fields returns. He's got 7 weeks now to effectively prove to the front office, to the coaching staff, to whatever bodies it might be that he needs to prove himself to. Is he the quarterback here long term, or if he is going somewhere else, this is his time to put on a show for another potential suitor that would want to bring in Justin Fields as, again, I think the best comparison is like a Ryan Tannehill situation. I know Q brought that up on the show here a couple weeks ago, but it's going to be an interesting week, Juice, because not only is Fields healthy, practice for in full for the first time since that thumb got dislocated against the Vikings on Wednesday today when we're recording this show. But as Scott also notes here as well, Nate Davis practiced in full for the first time after a couple weeks off with injury. And he says the best O-line of the season will be on for Fields this week. Blasingame is back and helping with protection as well. He says Fields going to go for 250 plus 4 combined tugs. He says 3 passing, 1 rushing. I would love 4 combined tugs, even if it was 2 and 2. I don't really care either way. But I think that the key here is this is probably the best version of the Bears offense we're going to get all season, at least in a silo, right? Obviously, a lot of shit can go wrong, but in a silo, you look at this and say, okay, you have Braxton Jones is finally back now. You have Tevin Jenkins returning to left guard, and he's been sensational all year long. Patrick has been whatever, but they just don't have anybody to play center at this point. Right guard will be Davis again, and Darnell Wright has been a fucking trooper, just battling through injuries the whole season, and he just doesn't care. He's still getting the job done. He's been an absolute freak over there, right tackle. And assuming that Foreman and Herbert are back this week, both limited right now. Herbert wasn't activated last week when he could have been off the IR because of that ankle injury. Apparently, there's now a shin issue as well, according to Wednesday's injury report. Who knows? But Roschon's healthy. Homer's healthy. You'll probably have one of those 2 backs back this week as well. This is, and Blasingame practice in full. This is the best version of the Bears offense that we're probably going to see all year. It's also the first time you're going to see them without Chase Claypool in the mix as well. So factor in more Cole Kmet, again, this is, in my humble opinion, I agree with Scott. This is probably the best version, not just of the O-line, but of the offense that we're going to see for the Bears this year. And of course it comes against their toughest opponent by far so far in Detroit. I mean, what is your kind of thought and expectation, Juice, coming into this game now that Fields is back and the offense looks as healthy as it has really all season long?
Yeah, this is Justin Fields' best chance to do things. He's been sitting for a while. Do you know those legs are healthy? Obviously, he talked today about his thumb and the things with that were going on and the strength and how he wanted to play on Thursday, but the doctors kind of said, hey, you should wait it out. You'll get the extra rest. But I mean, realistically, if Justin can't do it now, I don't know if it's ever going to happen. Even the defenses that they're going to play down the stretch here in the final 7 games are nothing to be squawked at, but there's opportunity there. Even on this Sunday's game, you watched Justin Herbert go up and down the field on Sunday against that Lions team too, and that defense is, it's got some holes in it. It's got some opportunities for you. I struggle back and forth with I obviously want Justin to play very well over the course of these last 7 games.
Sure.
But I don't know if Justin playing well for them matters in terms of him being on the roster anymore, because I think that there's a good chance that they've already made their decision, that they've already kind of looked at this and said, Justin doesn't play a lot of football games. He gets hurt a lot. Realistically, over the course of his NFL career, he hasn't been out there nearly enough. He plays a reckless style of football where he holds football pretty often, takes a lot of hits, takes a lot of punishment. And I just talked about it earlier, man. There's an opportunity for some of these guys within the front office to separate from the fact that Justin Fields was a guy that was just there when they took this job.
Sure.
And I feel like Justin at the end of it may end up being this sacrificial lamb that we're kind of talking about. Yeah. That where maybe he goes somewhere else and he gets to sit and watch for a season behind a backup quarterback, kind of what Matt Nagy and company wanted to do his first year. They wanted him to sit behind Andy Dalton and watch, and they didn't want to press him into But within 4 weeks, there's an injury to Andy Dalton. He's got to play. So I sit and I hope Justin has these great games, and I definitely think that it'll help. Having a guy like Cole Kmet, who's kind of established himself over the course of these last couple of weeks. But the problem becomes, did Justin watch enough to understand, taking your singles sometimes, and we're about to talk Cubs baseball later today, but taking your singles sometimes is a good move. We don't need you holding on to the ball to, look for the big play every single time we ask you to throw. Sometimes 4 yards in a cloud of dust is just exactly what you need. So I sit and I hope, and I know everybody laughed about, oh, he should be studying Tyson Bagent. I don't think that it meant like he should be studying the way he plays the position. I think it more meant in terms of scheme. And when Justin watches, oh, well, look how quickly he goes to that check down, and he goes through his progressions. That's something that Justin can add to his game. And I think even today in Justin's presser, he came out and said, he's like, yeah, sure, absolutely, I watched, and I hopefully can take some things that he did well. But remember, Justin's different. But Justin also has to remember that playing the way that he played over the course of college, and he's played over the course of his career, is not going to get teams excited to jump at him to trade for him. And this is win-win for the Bears, in my opinion. If he plays well, he works his way into the conversation of maybe we don't need to draft a quarterback. Mm-hmm. If he also plays well, it works in the conversation of maybe we can ask for a first-round pick opposed to asking for a second or a third. And if he doesn't play well, then you do know that they're going to lose a lot of football games down the stretch here, and your pick's only going to get better. So these last 7 games, it's win-win. But you know what? For Justin, he just needs to go out there and say, screw it. I got 7 games to prove it. I got 7 days to audition for the NFL. I got 7 days to audition for the Bears. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna play my game, and I'm gonna play the way that I think that the offense should look when I go out every day. And I hope that Luke Getsy, over the course of these last couple of weeks too, sat with Justin when they had all this time and said, hey, what do you like to do?
Yeah, and there was also a report that came out today too that Fields said that he would kind of, ask Getsy, like, hey, in this situation, like, what were you thinking with this play call? Like, what is the situational kind of thought process that goes into what you're doing? And hopefully, again, that improves the play down these last 7 weeks.